We left off by talking a little bit about what happened on the day of Sand Creek in 1864. So where we left off is that kind of the state of the event was Black Kettle, on left hand, had raised a flag showing the soldiers that they were there because they were protected. It was a white flag showing that they had no intentions of fighting. We talked a little bit about how they were surrounded by soldiers, 500 to 600 soldiers. And during that time, it was about a 7-hour siege where it was mainly women and children, a few peace chiefs who had brought their tribal members there to be protected. But what happened during that time was a mass murder, basically, where Indian people were beaten on the head. They had their body parts cut off. They had babies extracted from wombs so that they could be taken and paraded through downtown Denver to show that they were taking care of the Indian problem at that time. So at the end of the day, what happened was that between 150 and 270, mainly women and children, were dead. So as we know, kind of time and time again, what happens is that there is two sides to the story, often more sides to the story. So for Shivington, his idea was that the tribes had hostages. We need to take care of this matter by going to war and showing the Indian people that they can't do that. And he had the perception that Indian people were savages, that they couldn't be spoken with, that was not how matters would be taken care of. We see on the other side that people like Black Kettle, Captain Tule, who was somebody that day who went to Sand Creek but refused to allow his soldiers to fight. George Bent, who was somebody who was a tribal member of the Cheyenne tribe, felt like things could happen through negotiation, through peace, through compromise. So Shivington later on goes to trial because he is being investigated for what happened at Sand Creek. He contends that he was doing what he did to prevent war with other tribes, that it would actually maintain peace for settlers and would allow tribes to no longer believe that they could fight and win against other settlers or the U.S. Army. What happens, actually, as we know shortly thereafter, is that war breaks out on the Great Plains. And this is as a result of many, many things. Some people would say as a result of what happens at Sand Creek. Other people would say as a result of what happens to the buffalo, with the buffalo being exterminated during this time. Indian people are starving. But what happens by and large is not peace among the plains. What happens is that there is just still war. There is still a systematic desire to get rid of Indian people. Shortly after Sand Creek, Black Kettle moves with his tribe into a new territory. And he's once again trying to protect his people. But not more than 4 years later, we see General Custer, who is the person who is battling Indian tribes along the plains, attacks Black Kettle's Cheyenne village, and actually at this attack, he kills Black Kettle, who had survived Sand Creek, along with his wife in 1868. So we see not even after this investigation at Sand Creek did things change necessarily. What happens, rather, is that there is still a sentiment among people that the only way to solve what's going on between Indian people and settlers is to take care of the problem by themselves. Once again, we see that because the federal government is so distant, that there is not a lot that can be done in terms of negotiation anymore. Settlement is happening very rapidly. States are trying to handle this. Armies are present within the plains, but are taking care of the problem in a way that they see fit. Sand Creek is just one example of many examples that you saw in your textbook about what happens during this time period. Indian people are faced with the challenges of people coming in very quickly to their territory, gold being discovered, trying to reconcile how they're going to live on their land and protect their people. In some instances, as we saw with the Crow, where they decide not to fight and they end up on their traditional homeland. In other cases, tribes split. Tribes split in terms of some of the tribal members attempting to maintain peace, whereas others are trying to protect the tribe. We also see that some tribal members acquiesce to the government's demands. So during this time, things happen very quickly. By and large, Indian people, however, are quickly losing land, and their culture is changing rapidly because of disease, because they are relegated to reservations, and because they, in many cases, are trying to survive.